Science Fiction Stories of My Grandfathers. Chapter 3. The World's Memory. Vernon feared that those foul, poorly ventilated dens reflected the nature of his mind. He was desperate to regain control of his body, but he slumped to the floor in the centre of the dome. We were forced to make a deal with the outsiders. They had taken the high ground, to pitch for what is strong and true. An electronic spy, he speculated, a scuttling, scurrying, listening thing. It heard and watched his every moment, and transmitted this knowledge, but direct to whom and why? Bipedal invaders struck us with their darts, contorting our faces into twisted masks of pain and anger. They sailed through the impregnable amphibian city, at first listlessly, but gradually building to a frenzy, gyrating to the sound of brilliant suns. Maybe it wasn't a spying device, but something weirder. Sarja leapt the squat mountain, his words bellowed out over the waters. Seeking to sacrifice a life, he attempted with scientific fact and prophetic vision to hold his intelligence in quiescence. He worked up titanic forces, and his joy bubbled up as the plane crashed down. Opening out of the prison, the glory of the sun was rising within their minds. The green jungle was taking form outside the cabin's window. Creeping past their defences, the foliage overtook them. The jungle creatures forced the men down into Mud City. As he studied the instruments, Hewitt remembered his conversation with Clifford about attempting to reach the speed of light. He frowned. The figure on the velocity integrator was surely wrong. 198,700? Faster than light. Green beams were concentrated on the Earth's great orb. Their vibration subsumed the sinking city. Vince feverishly scouted lousy little worlds. The resistance was connecting together to form a perfect circle. An explosion in the abysmal jungle shattered Anne, her blood pumping from her damaged life. City after city on Earth had to learn how to breathe. Later in the day, he had sat on the porch and talked of the reservoirs of cosmic knowledge which kept the world from war. A mind of immense size and amorphous shape arose before them. It was the mind of the sea and the jungles of strange worlds. The many-fanged dragon challenged the void. A growing rushing sound came from this great amphibian Martian city. The world's memory creaked and rustled, housed within these mouldering walls and aging machines. A huge black ship hung in the broken sky above dull lands and rivers, its gleaming metal luminous in the cold calculation of the insane void. The defenders had been killed by the masters of the solar system. He climbed the barbed wire fence beside the creek and walked down to the waterhole where he had caught chubs. But the stream was now a trickle, and the hole was muddy, and the tree where he had sat had been washed away in a springtime flood. Sarja activated the hidden inner mechanism and shot forth a beam. The scientists watched as it slowly traced a line through the inhabitants of Mars to the now dry canal. Adam, freshly forged by God, was unworried by the first child. Light flashed inside his head with the brightness of a star. He looked at the strange and familiar hills, but he couldn't understand what was wrong with them. He moved on, feeling lonelier by the minute. Then he fled, trying not to think. They pushed through the reeds and chunky rubber plants, and made their way towards the city which stood beside the grey waters. Vernon stood a short distance away, unable to understand why you had disparaged his ship. He became fixated by the wireless matter transmission. Cruel, hunted space raiders live here, their tales told through brutal exhibits in the gallery. In 3 weeks the hope of humanity had outdistanced Earth by over 500,000 miles. The sun's gravity and the solar system's motion had caused the ship to drift diagonally past the sun. Twice the big ship had adjusted course so that it would eventually intercept the Earth's orbit. The time machine shifted the asteroid through the solar system. Ages passed. Lightning reverberated with thunder. The machine integrated the planets, the moon, and Jarvis himself. The mechanism grew hotter as the Earth overloaded. Saturn and the moon merged with Neptune's thoughts. Mind and matter ossified. Vernon was raised by impossible science up into the wintry Martian night, where he felt nauseous and weak in the thin atmosphere. He looked down into the black pool and gasped at his own reflection. Machine voices taunted him for his crumbling old claws. A dozen years had overgrown the farm road with grass and weeds, and showed little sign now of wheel ruts. The fields unploughed, the ground strung with fences and weeds, where over-cultivation had sapped it of strength. Old Arclight, redolent with machine intelligence, spread its influence to other planets. They sped ahead at 18,000 miles a second, vaporizing the water. Pop, just like that. Its tremendous power vaporized substance, leaving a clean, tangy odor. He raised his black force pistol and withdrew into the big rooms. A webbed paw was outstretched towards him. His life now depended on the Green Man. Sarja squeezed out after him. He surveyed the landscape, the pulsating sky. 2 flyers above a green sea with floating tiers of science machines. The city to his left seemed to flow over the glass land where chemicals had ignited to create a weaving surface. Then suddenly a thud, and the ground moved in a crescendo of horror. What would have happened to him if the top had not been taken and hidden away from him? He had deserted that fine place to cross the barrier towards the east. Who and what might he have met in the house hidden in the grove? Our lives were nailed to the sunshine. Years gently disappeared in family life. Peaceful insights and pastoral idyls swept through us as the springtide flood. Bluffs of knowledge and sourceless sunlight illuminated our work. We experienced wild imaginings from the green depths of suspended animation. There was no one guarding our existence. You raised your tube and a silhouette flickered against the ceiling. Beams of the gods swung free. Maybe there's still some sympathy. A door opened and closed. A man was revealed. Kathleen went east to where the bells rang the hour of the golden robots, and the knowledge of clipped grass and crab-apple trees. The thin violet line had certain remarkable human meanings. The farming in the valley had sapped the earth and captured fire. The creature closed its eyes. It reeled outside, staggering drunkenly amongst the dilapidated buildings, until it came to the temple of the little crystal, where he collapsed at the altar in a rapture of repentance. In the engine room, amidst the subliminal clamour, hum, rumble, and hiss of the actuality breathing of mathematical contraction disintegrator machines, Goody frowned. Just called from the captain's cabin, he listened to Vernon's theory, and stared at the letter that the bulky man had shown him. It seemed to be part of a conspiracy, but it was ambiguous. The robot Singh piled the board papers high after supper. Satellites shone in the night sky and scanned our lives for the mutants. Intelligent machines clung grimly to their ersatz lives, suffering terrible hardships and dangers, and being forced to make hourly broadcasts from Central Broadcasting. These sounded through the laboratories. They sacrificed another range of hills to the scientists' fell purpose. Theoretically, Vernon could travel around on the little asteroid. There was nothing to touch, but a mobile lightning glowed, and he moved near jets of intense light, and leaping gravitation in the cavernous room of infinite knowledge. As the outer doors swung open a minute later, a powerful spring mechanism catapulted the small craft with the 2 men into space. They had drifted several miles before Lesby started the forward drives, and they began to decelerate. Off to one side, the hope of humanity forged ahead, visible only by the dark shadow it cast against the stars. Leroy, the biologist, drank as fast as he could work the cubes. Neptune separated from the 4 moons. The door clanged shut. Here were the machine rulers of the attuned city.